Welcome to the Transparency Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe because this week is extra spicy. And it's also my first time hosting. We have some special guests with us, Blossom and Alexander from the Middle Ground episode, and it's going to be great.
This is the Transparency Podcast Show.
My name is Ivan Nash. It's my first time hosting, and I've got some surprises for you and a little kiki about the spit roast that happened this weekend. So stay tuned for more. I've got some amazing guests as well. And I think this is an exclusive, if I'm got that right. Blossom and Alex, they're here with us. So, hey y'all, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
What's going on?
Welcome to the Spit Roast, Kiki. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm nervous.
Nervous? What are you
Allegedly.
nervous for? Allegedly.
Allegedly nervous.
So, I think something happened this weekend, if I'm sure.
I think we want to debate.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we are the winners of, a debate called Jubilee Middle Ground, Trans Conservatives versus Trans Liberals. Just, you know.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that, Blossom. What happened this weekend?
Yeah, I think history was kind of made a little bit. We brought over our community that usually doesn't support that platform or usually doesn't watch that platform because they wanted to see trans and non-binary people actually being able to face off with each other about the issues that affects us and being able to do it in a way where we all have differences of opinion and just different political views and all of the things. And I believe, like, as a trans activist, it could be a little minute because there's a level of complicitness in our community where we feel like we have to hold these type of issues in within ourselves because we don't want to ruin the trans experience. We don't want to ruin the trans movement. But we were the ones that broke through that. And the amount of cis people who tuned in to watch trans and non-binary issues. This morning when I looked at the YouTube video, at the 21st hour, it had over 447,000 views, literally within the first 24 hours. We are breaking history here. It was one of the most intense, controversial conversations, but we're doing it.
Clearly. And then Alex, what happened to you this weekend?
Yeah, I was also a participant in this, let's call it I would call it a situation. To be honest, I know Blossom, you said that we won, but I feel like really nobody fucking won this thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because, there's a few things that I want to address about this whole situation. But one thing I wanted, to make sure that people really understand is as you're watching, this Jubilee episode or Middle Ground episode, there's some history actually between Blair and I.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Blair actually, in the past, essentially reposted one of my posts that I'd created. It was an educational post and bullied me and then blocked me. Oh, sorry. Bullied me and then blocked me. And then, I didn't even know who she was until months later when somebody told me that she'd done this. But I realized then, I was like, oh, no wonder I had all these hundreds of like hate comments come in all of a sudden. And it happens every once in a while. And like usually when that happens, I'm like, where is it posted? Who reposted something? Some far right media something or someone posted something. So in this case, it might have been one of those times, might have been her. So there was history there. And when I got there to the studio, I didn't know, I don't think many of us didn't really know who was going to be on the actual episode.
Yeah.
So I didn't know Blair was going to be there, but I heard her voice. And the reason I heard her voice is because I heard her say, I'm not here to change my mind about anything. And I was like, oh my God, it's Blair. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be much more challenging than I thought. Because to be honest, like who wants to sit there in front of bullies, in front of any bully? Like I don't want to entertain any bully. And I feel like by being there, I was entertaining this. And this is behavior that I just don't generally entertain. Mm-hmm. And then it made me look like a bully because of all the context that was missing against Blair. But in reality, she has been the bully this entire time. And, there's a difference between her and I. is that the content that I create, because I'm a content creator, and you can follow me on Instagram at alexander.tries,
Shout out.
ALEXANDER.TRIES. Follow me. But so we're both content creators, but the difference is that I don't need to put other people down to get my point across. Her brand is to be this person, is to be a mean girl. She calls herself everybody's favorite controversial trans woman or whatever it is that she calls herself. Fine. I think we can actually coexist in this world, but she needs to be more aware of the harm that she's causing to people that she doesn't know anything about. So some would call that terrorism. I'm just saying. But anyway, so that's that. The second thing I want to address that I really want to make sure is said about, is talked about, is that I was asked on the episode what I am dysphoric about. You don't ask people those kinds of questions. You don't ask trans people, even if you are trans, if you don't know each other, this is none of your business. I struggled to answer that question because at that point, when I was asked that, it was almost a moment of like, if I say what I'm dysphoric about, it's out there and it's no longer private. It's no longer mine. And I felt really pressured, like honestly, like I'm even getting emotional. I felt really pressured to even talk about my facial feminization surgery at that point. And I want people to understand that that question was not okay. I have dysphoria and it's none of y'all's business what it is until I decide it is. And if I never decide it is, then it never is. So that's what it is. So I wanted to make sure that people understand that. And to me, that's the equivalent of asking, any other trans person if they've had bottom surgery or things like that. It's just not okay. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're trans yourself. You don't ask people that question. That is invasive and disgusting. And actually, another point that I forgot I was going to make. I did call Blair disgusting. I know that. I shouldn't actually have called her disgusting. But did I feel it at that moment? Yes. Was she being disgusting at that moment? Yes. Should I have called her disgusting? Probably not. It wasn't my best look. Honestly, that entire podcast wasn't really my best look. Was I being my best? No. Why? Because I was put into a situation in a boiler room, just like we all were. We were put into a boiler room with these prompts that these directors knew were going to be extremely controversial. I signed up for it, so I'm going to stand by what I said. I said what I said. I stand by it. I'm not going to blame it on the edit. I said what I said. But there's context in things. So I really want to make sure that people understand why I came across the way I did, the history from Blair and myself, and also why I refused to answer what I am dysphoric about, because it's nobody's damn business.
We also don't have to apologize about boundaries as well. I think we all were placed in a position that was unique. I myself, I didn't know that it was going to be Blair. I did study a few different conservative talking points online when I came in to the debate, because that's what you do when you come into a debate. You get talking points. Quite frankly, I didn't even know the level of her following or her influence. I did recognize her once I saw her on set. I was actually kind of disappointed. I was kind of praying for Buck Angel, actually.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to lie, because I'm a trans guy. So that's somebody
disaster.
that I've wanted to have a discussion with. But that was probably, and I've been, on a few different sets and different productions and things. It was a really intense set, and I don't know if it was necessarily the full production's responsibility on that behalf, because some of the participants just came in that space and made us, it was so combative. It didn't feel like that we were actually trying to come to a middle ground, which I was visibly, upset in the video for, the blatant comments that were made that were, especially towards the two of you. It was really hard to even sit there. Yeah. And then at the same time, to hear someone that has a platform that really does influence folks. And then I was just watching all the faces of the people that I had helped throughout my career working in some nonprofit work, and remembering a trans veteran who would have to take off their makeup when I would take them home at night, because they stayed at a VA shelter and they were afraid that they would get beaten up. But it was just all those folks' faces just flashing through my eyes as she was saying all this rhetoric that she doesn't quite understand. the impact of her language and how it actually affects the system as a whole. And that was really hard to kind of be in that space. And a lot of the context and a lot of things were kind of cut off because the way that she was operating in the space, the director, I think for the first time ever, had to make rules,
Yeah.
which was really interesting to me because somehow, some way, the narrative has been flipped that, we attacked her or we
Yeah.
did this, we did that, but none of her actions are really being held accountable, at least on her behalf. I mean, maybe should I not have said, "What do you do for the community?" Maybe. I mean, that obviously hit a
No, you
trigger
did the
for her.
right thing. I
But
think
for me, when I was hearing what she was saying about pulling people out of the military and then she wasn't offering resources or speaking for detransitioners, I was actually trying to empathize for detransitioners in that space. I was thinking, well, what are the numbers so that we can create resources for these folks? Because I'm putting on my, my nonprofit kind of activism, oh my God, people need help hat. And I'm seeing, okay, well, if there's a detransitioner issue, we need to create resources for that.
yeah.
And I see somebody who has a platform who is really speaking for these folks, and that's not really platforming these folks and actually creating real resources. Because if I can kind of see how detransitioners feel like they're, in a rock and a hard place when it comes to our community because they don't quite fit in. They feel isolated from the trans community. They're not being accepted by the cis community. So there's that gap there. And I was trying to have a discussion on how we can support that gap. I didn't really mean to trigger her. I don't really know exactly why it triggered her so much, just to ask her a simple question of, hey, do you have 100 people you've worked with? Because I was trying to, again, find the numbers and what she was speaking on, but she kept speaking in such general terms. I felt like I was just chasing, from one subject to the next. And as soon as we'd land to a point, it would go to another point or it would turn into some catty thing. And it was just really unfortunate to see somebody, because part of me again was excited to debate her. The way she portrays herself online was somebody that could really handle a debate. And I don't know if she handled that debate in a way that even made her points come across the way that I think she wanted to. And she even said online already, she was so triggered by my comment that she couldn't handle the rest of the debate, which it's like, I'm asking for deliverables on what you're actually doing. I don't think that's anything that should be wrong or should not be questioned. I mean, if you were to ask what I did, I have no problem saying I did this, that, and the other. And even if someone were to disagree with me, it wouldn't trigger me because I'm fully aware of the work that I've done. It doesn't, rock me to that way. So, I feel like I've said quite a bit too as well. I don't want to take over too much more, but
No, I'm glad you
yeah.
said that because I too have, for context with me and Blair, I am the reason why this debate actually happened. What ended up happening was I was on a Jubilee episode called Trans Women versus Conservative Women's. And Amala, who was the Black conservative, she was a young Gen Zer. Me and her were going back and forth the most on there. And so she had a podcast. And so once our debate was done and once we filmed that episode, she asked me to come on with other trans women who are conservative. I said, cool, I have no problem, because we had a good discussion there. Well, I got blindsided because when I got over to her studio or whatever, Buck Angel showed up. And I was just like, these are not the trans women that you said. And so what ended up happening was I shot the episode with Buck. I thought the conversation went great, but Buck flipped out. And let me make this very clear. Anything that I say here today is my personal opinion as a Black trans woman. And so nobody can police that. We did the debate. I did not feel 100% comfortable in that space because I don't know, it wasn't debating Buck, because I don't mind debating trans conservative over issues. But for me, and this is that Libra in me, it has to be the right balance of space. The balance was not there because they were going to lean automatically more towards him. And I just pretty much threw off the debate on purpose. I literally just threw it off because I'm like, there's another platform where we can have this. Well, here's the thing. Blair White got hold of that debate because, again, Buck and Blair are like night and day or whatever all together. And conservatives were hyping her up because, oh, she should have debated Blair. And I agree, because me and Buck were not a match for that particular debate because we just had two different experiences. And it was just like, yeah, you're not who I need to debate. And I am a firm believer as a debater, like, you got to have somebody that can kind of match your thing where you're going head to head. And that's when really good debating and good discussion happens. And so what ended up happening was She had been wanting to debate me for a year. She started following me on Instagram.
Wait, she was
And
following you already on Instagram?
she was already following me on Instagram. So
Didn't she say in the debate she doesn't know who you are?
Yeah. Oh, I have mad receipts.
Okay,
I have mad receipts on her.
I remember that, right?
But,
Didn't she say
yeah.
that?
She said she didn't know who I was.
But she was
Yeah.
following you on Instagram?
Yeah, I have mad receipts on that.
But
And
she
so,
Sorry,
unlocked me.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you're fine.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. And so what ended up happening was this trashy platform reached out to me and was just like, hey, there's someone that wants to debate you about trans issues. And I was just like, oh my God, is it Blair White? He was like, yeah, it's Blair. And I was just like, okay, I'll come on and I will debate her. And so she didn't get back to him for about a week. And something told me to go look on the platform because I had learned my lesson with the last platform. I looked on that platform. They had some girl on there breaking her NDA over which celebrity she slept with. And I said, my community is not going to come to this platform and watch a debate between me and Blair. And so what I ended up doing was when that girl finally got back in touch with him, I told him, I said, listen, you can tell Blair to get in my DM and we can find a more mutual platform and we can debate each other. I don't think this is the platform that my community will come to. And I have mad receipts on that. He was like, cool. Blair never did. So almost a year later, I got a call from one of the producers wanting me to be a part of this episode or whatever. And when they told me what the name of it was, I was like, okay, Blair is probably behind this because I didn't realize you can go and pitch episodes to them. And so what I am a firm believer is she went and she pitched that episode. And I think it was intentional on the casting because she's always said on her platform, she dislikes trans activists and non-binary people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you and I felt like we're so targeted as much or whatever. But we held the most power on our end because she's bullied other non-binary people
She
on her
bullied
platform.
her own side.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Some of those people that she's bullied, made videos of or whatever, were also my close friends.
Mm.
And so it was a more personal thing for me. And so getting there to set, like you, I was excited to debate Blair because I knew people that could not stand her. And I knew I would be speaking for a lot of folks that she's harmed. I knew I would be that representation for not just me as a Black trans woman, but for all the trans and non-binary folks that she's harmed. Because I'm not gonna say they just may not have the capacity to deal with her. And she's a lot. And when we were all on set, she was so combative, she was so unprofessional, she was so disrespectful. She had an agenda. She had a whole agenda and a mission. And I think her point was she wanted to throw off that episode like she did Dr. Phil. She wanted to come on there and be disruptive. She wanted to be this boss or whatever. And I do think that to a certain degree, the Jubilee producers did play a part in it. And you all were there during the taping of this. She did call me ugly. While we were filming, they did edit it out. And I'm actually glad they did. And I'll tell you why. Long story short or whatnot, things got heated. I was like, yeah, keep it cute, keep it cute. She was like, yeah, you keep it cute because you're ugly. And in that moment, I got triggered. And I sat there because I've looked at this girl's platform and she has a racist following. A lot of her followers are racist.
It seems like it. Yeah.
They're very prejudiced. They're very racist. They're very transphobic. But the thing is, when you feel isolated from community, you're going to go to whoever's going to affirm you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she said that, I knew that was more of a deeper rooted saying towards me and my ancestry and everything about me. So what ended up happening was, because I've worked on this set before, we ended up taking a 30-minute break. That has never happened. Last time I was on that set, we shot 3 hours straight conversation, which is why for our episode, I'm really shocked at the amount of content we were able to get, because the director said 1 hour and 30 minutes, we were all fighting with her, which I was like, whoa. So when we took the 30-minute break, they had us all in separate dressing rooms. And so I actually had to do a root chakra meditation to get back grounded and to get back in alignment. And it's like, you know what, Blossom, let's do this. Because what conservatives like to say about me is I'm angry, I'm upset. And because of my statue, they're trying to say I'm very threatening, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got back on set, we debated. And if you notice, I calmed her down a little bit. You know what I mean? Like because it's actually strategy, because debating is also strategy too.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, Blair, I don't have no problem with you, girl. Da 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 da, or whatever. And then, in the video, I set her up for the perfect blow up when I talked about how my blackness should not pay for your whiteness that's destroying my community. And it's so funny because all of a sudden, she's half white and she's half Latina. But all of a sudden, she wants to lean back into her Latina-ness, her being a Latina. She's half Mexican, she's half Portuguese or whatnot, to try to assimilate into a conversation with me about what I was saying. And the thing is, it's like, first of all, on her white side, when I specifically said whiteness, I'm talking about your white side. Let's not act like Portuguese people can't be racist to the Africans that come over there. And let's not forget,
And they are.
Portuguese people in Portugal, they were colonizing folks. And what it is Blair thought she was going to colonize me. That's what she thought she was going to do.
I mean, the respectability politics comment that she made about you need to work on your transition before you go to the bathroom.
Oof.
I mean, the level of just
Audacity.
lack of empathy for other people's lives.
It was stupid. She was stupid. It was just such a stupid comment.
Yeah.
It was really stupid because it's just like, why are we policing other people's transness? And they're trying to use, because I caught their strategy, like they're trying to use the gender binary of being a man and being a woman to be used against somebody that's non-binary.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I will say strategically, it was really interesting because like when I debate, I have to take my feelings out of it or whatever, because we got to talk about the important issues. But they have a certain strategy where they sound very convincing in their talking points. But when you take their talking points and just try to dissect it, they're really stupid. They're not really connecting. But conservatives like that because conservatives only have a basic understanding of what trans people and non-binary people are. And that's why I made that talking point in the debate. It's like, and if you notice, none of them said anything when I said that. They know they are the basic understanding of what transness is.
Yeah.
And they're going to believe everything that they say.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny you say that because I was just actually telling somebody, I was like, there are people in this world who are just like so well-spoken, but they're not right. And it doesn't matter. Like you can sit there and be like, well, the statistics say this and that, blah, 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 and talking back and forth until you turn blue. But it doesn't mean that you're correct. It doesn't mean that you're correct. You just because you're well-spoken doesn't mean you're correct. So it's almost like a facade. It's like this, like they're putting on drag, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it's like this silly perception that because you sound smart, you are smart, but you're not. You're not always smart. You're not always right. It doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't make you right all the time. Mm-hmm. And people kind of like forget that. And conservatives, like you said, conservatives love that though. They love a well-spoken, they love a well-spoken person. And so it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
And you know what though? They were so well-spoken. And it's just like,
well, yeah, no, I noticed that actually in the comments because I did look at some of the comments because, I don't mind looking. It is what it is when it comes to that. Folks were saying that I was well-spoken too. And it's to me, when I'm looking at that, and especially with the two of you as well, and especially Blossom, the way that the double standard, because I'm a white male presenting,
correct.
Passing privilege, all of those things come into factor for folks. And you can see it clearly in the comments when a lot of the points we were making similar points. And I think it's really harmful the way that a lot of the rhetoric that's going on in the community. I mean, even right now, the reason why I wore pink today is because I'm getting misgendered for the first time in the history of, it's so funny. I grew up my whole life getting he pronouns thrown at me as a bully. And now, I'm getting called she, but to any trans mask out there that feels like you are getting, harmed in this way, shape or form, if it can happen to me, don't let it worry you. I mean, it's just people projecting their traumas out on you. And I wore pink today in celebration of it because, again, as I said in the episode, as I'm getting older, I used to be like Butch. Like masculinity was my whole identity. Yeah. Like I wanted to chop logs. I can do the whatever standard of a man,
Mhm.
I can do all of those things. And I almost became obsessed with it when I was younger because I had this idea of like, you got to be, this to be a man. And as I've aged, I've realized how ridiculous that was. Do I still love that I can chop wood? Yes, because I can keep my wife warm.
Yeah.
But B, I also love the fact that I know how to like when she goes to the store and buys makeup, I have the understanding of like different tones and like, hey, let's touch this up with blush and
Right.
different makeup things and having that sensitivity to me. I don't know if a lot of straight men know this, but it makes it sexier for women when you are, like on this side.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem in that department. I got no dick and I've had a wife for 17 years. So
Okay.
clearly I'm doing something right, y'all.
Listen,
And I think that makes some cis men uncomfortable that I got that BDE without having
can
it.
I say this? Because Blair had lied on me and said that I threatened her.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that as
yeah.
well.
And I definitely need to talk about that because my safety was in jeopardy at one point because of her lying.
Yeah.
And I will say, because I have mad receipts, Blair White lied and said that I threatened her on set. She went to her little low budget podcast, and I do mean low budget, like low budget in the dirt. It is a trash podcast, just like she is. And the thing is, and I humbly say, and I disrespectfully, humbly say it. And because the thing is, all of a sudden, these conservative trolls come over to my page and accuse me of threatening her. And so here's the thing. She's very white adjacent. She's very in white proximity. Because I'm a Black person and because racists are part of her platform as far as those that follow her, she didn't think about my safety. She didn't care about my safety. She didn't care about what these people could have done to me for her lies. This is why I appreciate Jubilee actually releasing the Patreon, because what happened was the director came into my room after the meditation. She walked up to me and she was just like, Blossom, I know it's biased, but we don't want Blair to leave the set. And I actually had to check the director in her place. Then I said, let me tell you something. I've been on this set before. The last time I was here, I had a great time. Everyone treated me kindly. Everyone was sweet. The conservative women, although we had different viewpoints, we all got along. We all exchanged Instagram information. It was a vibe and a good time. And that's what I was expecting coming here. And it was so funny because they reached out to me to ask if I knew another trans man who would want to come on. And of course, I thought of you. And, because I've suggested another trans man to them before and it worked out or whatever, they trust me enough to bring people in to the platform. And I stood up and I told her, I said, I'm the only Black person on this set and I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe because this girl is attacking me. Y'all typecast. Let's just be really clear. Y'all typecast for this episode because, again, she intentionally had a problem with non-binary people and trans activists. So I knew we were automatically going to be the target. So the thing was, something changed in that director after that conversation because the second half, she was so much better after I told her that. And it was crazy. I should not have. But the thing is, for some reason, that platform is really good for my brand because I love to debate. Whenever I put up those Jubilee debate videos on my page, they're some of the highest rated viewed videos. So I'm like, okay, so y'all will watch me debate somebody. Yeah. Cool. It works for me. But, I like going over to that platform because I love debating different viewpoints. And so, like everyone was welcoming and everything or whatever. But I will say, because Jubilee released that unedited Patreon version or extended version of it or whatnot, they can be worked on. Yeah. Because number one, she had lied on their platform saying that they had edited into our favor, which is not true because Jubilee had been known to lean more conservative in the editing process. And I do see exactly what people are saying. But I also think too, probably what it is they just may have a more conservative leaning audience and they can't control their audience because this is about middle ground. You're supposed to find middle ground. But I think they attract more conservatives than they do liberals, and that's something they can't control. Now, I don't want to take away other people's experiences that have gone on that show, and it did lean in that way. But you kind of can't control anything or whatever. But what was so powerful about this was I told them, because they had asked for feedback after everything happened. And the thing is, let me make it very clear. I was at a Black Creative Summit by GLAAD. I was one of 150 people selected out of 500 Black queer creatives to attend this summit to better myself as a Black creative. So what ended up happening was it was over the Friday and that Saturday. I was so bummed about missing Saturday, but something told me I need to show up for my community this day. So what ended up happening was I did the GLAAD summit on Friday. I took really good notes. There was one session where Francesca and Delilah, I hope I'm saying her name right, were talking, and I took so much notes off of their session because that session actually helped me deal with Jubilee after everything happened with Blair, which is crazy. And, this is an all Black creative summit. It's the first that GLAAD ever did. They're trying to move towards more of an inclusive way. And so it's kind of crazy because I think I'm about to become their first success story from the summit, especially with this debate. And so, I was like, you know what? Let me do this for my community. And you remember for a fact, like I was so bummed about the last two sessions because I wanted to shoot the debate and go to the last 2 sessions or whatever. Because I'm like, oh my God. And I missed it. And it was kind of crazy because when you dropped me off from the show and everything, I got back to my room. Well, before I got to my room, my sister Shar, I was passing her and she was like, Blossom, what's wrong? And, I had told her that Blair had called me ugly. And she was just like, okay, you need to decompress. Like you're holding a lot in. Just take care of yourself. And we had the closing reception later that night. So this is like in the evening. So I was like, I had a couple of hours to do so. So when I got back in my room, that's when I broke down and I started crying. I started crying because I had never felt so disrespected by somebody that was just so unprofessional and just somebody that is so despicable. I'll call Blair White despicable. That's literally how I feel. And people can say, oh, you shouldn't call another trans person that da-da-da-da-da or whatever. Let's start addressing racism in our community. Mm-hmm. Let's start addressing anti-Blackness in our community, please. Mm-hmm. Let's start addressing, let's start addressing the fact that some of our trans Latina sisters can be anti-Black. Mm-hmm. Let's name it. Because if Blair is talking about her being half Latina, where are the trans Latinas showing up to, denounce her anti-Blackness? Are y'all going to show up? Because I know some of my trans Latina sisters like Joanna Sofredo and Geneset Gutierrez, they'll check that. Those are my girls. Those are my sisters, my beautiful Latina trans sisters. Like we have these conversations around anti-Blackness. And I also understand that white supremacy does play a part for all of us or whatever. It's that one common denominator that we have. So, you know what I mean? Like being able to work through these conversations. And so, later on that night or whatever, I got to the closing reception. I got to see my sister Ashley Marie Preston. And, she was the one that sat down with me. She was like, Blossom, tell me what happened between you and Blair. I hope I don't cry or whatever. It was like, my Black trans sisters, they cared. And I sat there and I told Ashley Marie, like, what had happened to me on that set. And I was just like, Angelica Ross was bold enough to get on social media recently and talked about her experience with Ryan Murphy and American Horror Story. And she talked about how she was the only Black trans woman on set and how Emma Stone? Emma Roberts, I get those two confused. Emma Roberts, how she treated her or whatever. And in that moment, it was the same thing I had experienced on Jubilee. Yeah. It was literally identical. What Angelica Ross experienced on American Horror Story, I experienced on that set of Jubilee. And this is the reality of Black trans women. And when I look at that video now that has been posted of our debate, And I've seen that over 500, at last check, over 500,000 people have watched our video. I just want us to keep that same energy for showing up for us in other issues, not just for debate, anti-trans legislation, combating anti-Blackness and racism within our trans community, being able to give us resources, supporting Black trans women like Ashley Marie Preston, Hope Giselle, Sharja Saul, Shia Diamond, Ashley Breed, Madizal Leva, Raquel Willis, Alexandra Gray. So many Black trans creatives and actors and activists that really have made a difference in this community, like myself. Like, we should be supporting Black trans women. And I will say it again, we should be supporting them. Because let me tell you something. Had it not been for me saying yes to debating Blair, this debate would not have ever happened on that platform. She went to them because she knew Jubilee was the only balanced platform that I would go to where I would debate her. I wasn't going to come to another conservative podcast. And for Buck Angel, that little whatever, to be trolling me, to be racist towards me, because I got mad receipts. I got mad receipts with his little microaggressions about me being Black, saying, oh, it must be sad to be Black. He did say that, and I have mad receipts. So if they want to try something, let's go. And the thing is, it's just like, because I'm from Mississippi, born and raised in it. When I had that mic drop moment on Blair White, it was equivalent to me looking into white supremacy and saying, I wish you would. Because when I did what I did to Blair on that video about talking about how my Blackness shouldn't pay for her whiteness, I was breaking generational curses.
Completely. And Alex, I wanted to add, something that at least I personally saw was just the animosity for the two of you. And I wanted to really give you room as well to speak about non-binary folks, because Blossom and I, in a sense, have a privilege in this space in the trans community because we have access to certain things that you don't. And looking at how you were treated on that set, to just invalidate you as somehow you're not a part of the community. That's why I said what I said about, I also wasn't really going to tell people I don't take testosterone, but when she was so viscerally mean to non-binary people, I wanted to show people that, like, hey, here's the guy that you see as like this cis-passing trans guy. And even I can see that to a degree. I don't have an issue with non-binary, and I can even understand it, because to me personally, masculinity and femininity, everyone's trying to define what a man and a woman is. To me, it's just an energy. You either radiate masculine energy, you radiate feminine energy, or you radiate both, or sometimes you radiate neither. It's really just a spectrum there. And we're all humans at the end of the day. Again, I'm a trans guy, and I know what it's like to take testosterone and basically grow a small penis. So I realized that women's bodies are very similar to men's bodies. And once I realized that, I was like, why are we fighting in this world? It doesn't really make sense that there's such a gender bias. But again, I want to give you space because it really hurt me to see, the non-binary community attacked in the way that it is. Because me personally, again, I'm a binary trans person, but I don't see you any less a part of the community than I am, especially even in my pre-transition days. So please let us know.
And we will not disrupt you, we promise.
Yes.
I promise. I'm here to
Honestly, no, I really appreciate you both. And, maybe I'll start this with saying what the actual definition of transgender is for, everybody out there who's listening. So to be transgender means that you fall outside of the gender binary. Non-binary people non-binary people fall outside of the gender binary. So therefore, non-binary people can indeed call themselves transgender because they are not within the gender binary. So very simple for those of you who actually wanted to know the real definition. You do not need to have transitioned in order to be transgender. A very important question or a very important point to make is pre-transition, if you're a transgender person, pre-transition, would you call yourself transgender? Still? Are you still transgender? Yes, you are. Because you are. If you are a transgender, you're a transgender pre-transition as well. So I just want to clarify that to everybody so everybody knows. But yes, one thing I also want to make sure is that people know that I speak from my own experience. This is my own non-binary, gender fluid experience. I've had my own journey. I'm still figuring out who I am every single day. Things change, things evolve. That's just part of being human. And also a really good part of being human is the ability to evolve. But it was very painful to kind of watch that back. And then just think about all of the other non-binary people who are watching it and thinking, and like maybe people who do relate with me and thinking like, damn, they're seeing me be attacked. And then like now they're kind of under attack as well. It's like, it's this contagious thing. Like now they feel attacked, And so it's just painful to think about all of the other people who now feel a certain type of way after watching that. And maybe some of them feel empowered. Like I didn't want to hold back what I was feeling in the moment. And, when the show was presented to me, it was presented to me more of as a discussion versus a debate.
Yeah.
And I was told, you don't have to like debate necessarily. You can just, tell your story essentially, like, and then maybe you guys do find some middle ground. Great, cute. I'd seen like a couple of episodes before. I didn't want to bias myself too much. But the ones that I'd seen weren't too bad. Yes, there was like some little things here and there, but it wasn't too bad. So when I went on set, I was expecting a discussion, not a debate and an attack and to be interrupted. It was every single time I spoke, I was interrupted. There was maybe that's a lie. I think there was one time when I wasn't interrupted, but the entire time I was thinking, I'm going to be interrupted. Which was distracting me. And I couldn't get my points across. Like I felt there were a lot of unfinished thoughts because I was, again, being interrupted so often. But there's so many important things that I wanted to share with everybody about what it means to be non-binary, about my struggles, because there are so many shared struggles, and this has become now a podcast talking about how Blair was awful, at Middle Ground, which it kind of is what it is because
we've got to address the elephant in the room.
She was being most aggressive out of the others. And to be quite honest, like the others, I feel like I was fine. Like, honestly, I would have had no problem at Blair.
I came to middle ground on some of them. And, the thing that I saw, she even put out a video, I think before the video even came out, where she's like, come on, y'all, I can't do all the heavy lifting. It's like, you're even hurting your own team when I just don't get that. It just seems like she's on an island.
And then somebody said, I love you. And I was like, yeah, like it's just, we just have differences of opinion, but that's okay.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. Like they were, that's what I debate on an every day. And I think with Jubilee, when it comes to how they pick conservatives, they pick them more that are much more like moderate or much more open to listen to the other side. That I will say they're very meticulous about that. They don't usually pick a lot of extremists like Blair. Blair is
that was shocking. That was shocking. That was
energy
shocking
on the set. I got to tell you, I'm sure that there's folks that caught that where I was just like breathing and I looked, viscerally upset. I didn't want to look her in the eyes because the energy that she was radiating was just horrific.
That's honestly. Funny because I wanted really to look her in the eyes.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to like even give that any energy because it's so sad feeling. Like when I was sitting next to her, there was this sadness that I felt almost as if like, it's like this person that's not getting chosen by one community. So they're running to another and they're locking themselves in a room to perform for a community that ultimately hates them. So that's got to be a hard life to live. In some weird way, I hate to say it, and I know you don't quite agree, Blossom, but I still feel some sorrow for her that she has to live that way because I can see how she may have gotten to where she has and being isolated from communities in some ways. Because sometimes community can look at me as a white trans guy and go, that guy's got everything in the world. And people have projected things on me from my own community, but I've had to learn the maturity of understanding why those folks are even in that position in the first place and not project my own traumas out onto others. You have to heal.
Yeah. Can I tell you the reason why? It's not that I disagree with you. I just understand that you're a white trans man.
Yeah.
And I'm black.
Yeah.
So it just looks too different because let me tell you what also happened. So I'm on Twitter. Someone posted an old racist video of Blair saying that every time she snubs her toe, she uses the N-word. They tagged me and Blair. But this was after the
Recent?
debate. This is very
Okay.
recent. So it was way after the debate.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just like, that's that. And so when I looked at that video, it's like, this isn't shocking to me. This is not shocking to me at all. It just made what I did in that video much more powerful.
Mhm.
And this is why I said earlier about this was a win, because sometimes when we get caught up in other people's drama and the conservatives and all of the things or whatever, we sometimes forget that there are people who are supporting us.
Mhm.
And that's what I've been focusing on, because the people that have come to me and said, Blossom, thank you
Mhm.
for going on there and saying something about grassroots.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying something about, you know, even though you're not non-binary, but thank you for saying what you said about non-binary people.
Yeah.
Like you were just debating it. And the thing is, though, that platform is helping me grow as a debater. And that's what I told the producers. It's like, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to strengthen my debating skills. But this is what I was saying. Like, we were such a representation of our community that can't take Blair and that can't take Buck. And the only thing I kept getting from trans conservatives is, to a certain degree, and this is where I may have middle ground sympathy for them, is they feel left out because they think the reason why they're not a part of the trans community or whatever is because of their political views. And that's not really the case. It's much more about the bigotry,
Yeah.
the racism,
Exactly.
the isms, and all of the things. And
The
so
misogyny.
the
all of it.
misogyny, all of those things. And so it's just like, well, how do we heal from here? But this is my thing. Because past this podcast, I don't think I'm going to talk too much. I don't think I'm going to name drop Blair White too much more.
Same.
Because number one, she's not going to get all my peace and my energy. But I also want us to begin to address the systemic racism and anti-Blackness within the trans community.
Mhm.
But I thought it was really, really important to say these things or whatever, because I speak for so many people. I really do. And you know, I was powerful, but for you as a non-binary person to take up space, and this is what I need you to understand, that was really powerful because, you know, and it was really powerful for the non-binary community to see us walk. Well, what did we do? Did we stay back on a prompt or walk up to a prompt about non-binary people? I have to go back and look at the video, but it was
walked up,
yeah, we walked up to a prompt on saying, that the non-binary community should be included in the trans community. And we all walked up, the 4 liberals. And don't you know how refreshing? Somebody commented and said, thank y'all for walking up. Thank you for saying that we should be in the trans community. And it's like, you know, that's just human. Like, I'm human. That's just the humane thing to say. And that's why I said, like, I have friends that are non-binary. And some of the people that Blair has talked about in her videos were my friends. There are people I care about that are non-binary.
Yeah.
So like, how dare you mistreat them? And so that's why I knew, and I thank you, universe, for aligning me with this girl to say what I needed to say. Because I knew she wasn't going to say anything past it, because she went on her platform and lied and said something about, oh, if the director hadn't cut me off, this is what I said. Like, I'm half Latina, da-da-da-da-da, or whatever. But as you can see in the doggone video, she shut down and she shut up.
Yeah. She resulted to insults, which in any debate, you know, if you're
Mhm.
resulting to insults, I mean, you kind of know what that means at the end. And then, Alex, I want to give you just another opportunity, because I think what my true intention of this podcast was to air out the spit roast a little bit. Yes, I'm calling it that because that's what you called it, darling. So I'm just going to use your own PR. But I really want to bring some healing to the space, because all 3 of us honestly represent different dynamics, different growing up differently, and how we were able to come into this space. And even the other side, the conservative side, I honestly had no issue. I thought they were great at presenting their points. I think at one point I was able to shake a hand of you know, the veteran, because thank you for the service, Sarah. Yeah.
And we had middle ground on some things.
Yeah.
I even had middle ground with Blair. I even agreed with her on certain things. So it was just like,
she didn't want to agree with other people. Even if she did agree, she didn't want to agree. And that was the difference. And that's why I said, I don't know if it's in the extended cut, but I said, I didn't, if you come in here arm swinging, like, you're not gonna, there's, why are you even here?
Yeah.
It's called middle ground. It's not called attack the opposition.
Yeah.
This is not called war. It's called middle ground.
Yeah.
And I feel like she totally missed that, you know. Anyway, honestly, like, I really don't even want to say her name, again
have
We can
for
drop-
like
we can-
That's
for
what
like
this is for.
for
It's
like the rest of
purge,
my life.
It's
You
the
know, I would
debrief when we're
yeah,
done.
I would love for this to be like the seal
Yeah.
on that chapter, because I have other chapters in my life. I have a whole
Yes.
ass life ahead of me
Yeah.
that I have to live. I have a whole
Yes.
lot more work that I need to do. I have a whole lot more educational videos that I want to put out. I have a lot more help that I want to build resources for people to help them, like
Yeah.
transgender people, non-binary people.
Mhm.
I want to do that. I have so much to do other than to sit here and talk about Blair.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that's what I wanted to do on the show, is I wanted to actually go there, to be honest, and just kind of explain or talk about my experience, my non-binary experience. So maybe other people could relate. Maybe other people who don't know much about non-binary people could learn something new, because it's still a very small population.
Yeah.
You know, even within the trans community, non-binary people are still it's even smaller population than trans people. So it's just it's a shame that I didn't get to do that. But you know, I do still have my platform. Like I said, if y'all follow me on Instagram, alexander.tries, like you will see all of the work and effort that I've been putting. I have like over 700 videos of just like very basic information, like what does transgender mean? What does bisexual mean? What is this? What is that? You know, and I have all that kind of stuff that's what brings me joy and happiness. Like, I'm an educator, not a debater. I've learned that through this experience, to be honest. I will fight, but I'm not a debater. And so, but you know, honestly, like this was actually very eye-opening for me. And I am in this place in my life where I'm like, what's next for me? Because I've been creating content. I started this whole journey by first like starting to do makeup tutorial videos, because I was trying to tap into something about myself that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Then I found out I'm non-binary. Then I started I kept doing videos with my makeup tutorials, but then I would start like doing like little stories about like, well, you know, when I was a kid, I used to wear dresses and things like that. And I would start, and then I figured out that education was the way I wanted to go. And so now I'm doing all this stuff. But now I'm in this place where I'm kind of feeling like, okay, I'm not reaching as much as I want. What do I need to do next? So next thing I want to do, and I'm going to just drop this in here. I haven't,
Please do.
it's not necessarily
No,
like
we want to know your
fully
projects,
realized yet,
Give us the tea.
but I actually want to do a series, like a podcast series. I'm going to start with one just series of like, I don't know, 7 episodes, just something like that. I don't want to disclose exactly what I'm going to be talking about yet, but it's going to be in the educational realm. And the best part about all of this is that, again, I don't have to put anybody down to get my point across.
Ooh.
So,
Can you rewind and say that
know what
again
I'm
for the
saying?
people?
Let me say it again. Hold on. I don't have to put anyone down to get my point across.
Ooh.
So I'm just saying, so that's that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like if people are curious about the non-binary experience, or my non-binary experience specifically, feel free to reach out to me. Send me a DM. Let me know. My email address is in my thing too. Y'all can email me, be old school. But also, maybe put yourself out there and like meet other people who are non-binary and maybe learn about their experiences. And maybe you just won't be so scared of them. Anyway, I said a lot, but like, honestly, I just feel like there was so much that I didn't get to say because of the situation that we were put into. But yeah, I hope that this will actually get people to look more into what it actually means to be non-binary. I hope this planted the seed, because the thing is, once you plant that seed, you can't unplant it. It's there. I do this all the time. I do this all the time with my own family. My family's a little bit more conservative. They're good people. They're more conservative, but they're good people, but they're conservative in their own points. They're old school. They're immigrants. Very bizarre.
Gotcha.
And so I always plant seeds with them. I'm always like, but mom, don't you think that sounded a little racist? And then she's like, I don't care. I will call anybody racist. If they're being racist, that's disgusting. Don't be racist. It's that simple. If it's a microaggression, I'm like, mom, you know what a microaggression is? Let me teach you. This is our responsibility, right, as human beings in this world too, to teach other people, to help them evolve, especially the ones that we're really close to, like our parents that are old school or whatever, or our cousins or whatever. There's still opportunity for you to teach them too. That's a whole other subject we can talk about, but that's why for me, like this whole educational process, doing the podcast that I'm going to do and kind of sticking to education is really, really important to me. More knowledge, less hate.
Well, I have.
Excuse me.
You're good.
Fine.
Edit that out, please.
No,
I
we're
said
gonna do the
anything.
raw, uncut version. We don't show or hide anything, right?
On Patreon.
Right.
Yeah.
$3.
I think my
Jubilee,
allergies-
you're shady for that,
my
okay?
allergies-
Trying to get all
No,
our
that
$3.
was smart though.
It was,
It was, but
I
you
have
know
a
what?
question.
It was smart.
Hold on.
It was smart to her base.
It was,
Yeah.
because they're gonna make money off it. But I have
Yeah.
a question for the two of you, and Alex,
My allergies
you
are
can
just bothering
first,
me.
just so we can catch you up on the allergies.
That's it.
So what advice, since we have this platform,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty sure the folks that are, watching this are gonna look at our socials, what advice would you give to a non-binary person that is going into a debate now that you have these experiences? And the second question is, what is your favorite moment from the debate? Because it wasn't all bad.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. Advice. So if you were to be a little non-binary baby who's never been at a debate or never debated, first things first, get some really good sleep, because
Please do.
let me tell you something. When you don't sleep or eat well, you're gonna be in such a badass mood and nothing's gonna come across well. But really, honestly, I think it's just take time to remember that, to be present, number one, because that's really, really important. And from what I learned from my mistakes, don't be yourself, but try not to let people see that they're getting to you. It's human that they're going to get to you, but try not to let them see it. It's difficult, but meditate on it, breathe on it, think about it. Do more than I did. I only watched a couple episodes before I jumped to something. I should have watched more. I should have done more research. So, at the end of the day, I guess maybe the biggest thing is do more research and eat and sleep well. So that's my advice. And then, my favorite part, honestly, it really was like, besides Blair, it really was meeting and like hearing all these other perspectives. Because there were a couple things that I was just like, that the conservatives said that kind of just were like, oh, yeah, I guess I could see it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I also agreed with them on a lot of other things. And I know we agreed on each other's things, but it just was it was being kind of just blocked out by all the noise. But yeah, I honestly, I think it was just really just being in front of these people. We're always in an echo chamber. I said this on the end of the episode, but to be in front of these people and like get the opportunity to actually talk to them in a space that is for that was cool. I just wish it would have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh,
Lost me all right?
my allergy. It's like I have a scratchy throat, but like I'm
You want some
fine.
water?
It's because you're remembering the trauma. It's okay. We
Yeah,
I
understand.
know. No, you're allergic to the bullshit. That's what it is.
That's what it is. That's gotta be it. What questions you got for me?
So I've got the same question for you.
What these questions is?
Queen of debates.
Yes.
I was gonna bring my crown and I forgot it, but I'm gonna make a TikTok video, so stay tuned.
But same questions for you, Blas. So what advice would you give to a Black trans woman coming to a debate? Because again, different dynamics here. And then also, what was your favorite part?
Yeah, don't be afraid to be your authentic self. Don't be afraid to use race, because race is that one thing that triggers a lot of conservatives. Like even on the comment section, it's so funny because when I read the comments, I get more of joy understanding that I made an impact. I made an impact to conservatives. Even though they can't stand me, it's like my name kept coming up in a lot of those comments. And for some reason, that makes me proud. And I feel like it makes other trans people proud too when I post them in the Instagram story, because it's like somebody's finally getting them.
Yeah.
Somebody, because they're threatened by my success and they're threatened by my light. I'm a light coming into that space. And so I would tell them, make sure you have a clear-cut understanding of what you're coming into. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you feel like there are microaggressions on sets, call it out. Call that shiznik out, because, everybody has to learn and everybody has to grow. Yes, but you also should not have to go through that. You don't have to feel disrespected. You don't have to feel like, that you can't speak up for yourself. Because I do think there is a lot of power in being the Black trans woman because I'm experiencing that power right now. I was the only Black person on that set, and people talked about this in my comment section. Like for you to be the only Black person, only Black trans woman on that panel, Blossom, you killed it. Like you really, really held it down and you killed it. And so, it's just like I'm just, thankful for that. And what was the other question?
And what was your favorite moment?
Oh, so here's the thing. My favorite moment was actually
It can be the petty one or the one that healed us. It's whichever one you want.
I may have two then.
Okay.
Ooh.
One of the moments actually involved you and I, because in that video, she had said something towards you, but both of our mouths dropped and you could see it on the episode or whatever like that. Because I looked at you and my mouth went, no, she did not just say this or whatever. But if you remember, and this did not make the final cut, I can go ahead and tell you this now because I looked. The second time around, not the last time you spoke, because I think you spoke last, because that did make the final cut. That's the one they went with. But in the other cut, Blair had spoken last. And so she said that me and you were not cute. And you remember I said, I'm not cute. I'm a divine goddess. And she stuck her nose up and went like that. And that was the one I wish they would have used. But the one that they ended up using or whatever, it made sense because it made us look like we came more to a middle ground. And that's what the point of it was. So I understood that. But I think my favorite part of the video was when I talked about non-binary people and the non-binary prompt. Because I felt like it opened up that discussion of nuance that we need to talk about. That's why I talked about how, non-binary people have different sexual orientations. Like that's opening up another nuance. And you know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't understand that or whatever. And I think for me, because in my dating pool, I've opened that up to non-binary people. Let me make this very clear. I wasn't always the best when it came to non-binary people, especially about 3 years ago when it came to the pandemic or whatnot.
Thank you for acknowledging that because a lot of people are afraid to say that.
Yeah, because the thing was, I felt like with non-binary people that they are more in proximity to cisness than I am as a Black trans woman. But I also understand there's different layers, there's white supremacy, there's a lot of other different things that's going on. And I said this actually in the Jubilee video. One of the non-binary people that I was having an issue with was like, well, Blossom, it's because for safety reasons, sometimes we have to be forced to go into the gender binary because of the environment we're around. And so when they told me that, I was like, oh. And so it started opening up this more dialogue of it. But what ended up happening was some of my friends started coming out as non-binary. And so it was like, well, how can I support them and still uphold these ideologies of non-binary people? Something's got to change. And so, like when I started opening up my dating pool to non-binary people, it helped change. And, as I started gravitating more non-binary friends and more people that I love and adore coming out as non-binary and just like, you know what I mean? Like that's that. And quick astrology thing, because I am an astrologer. Aquarius rules the trans and non-binary experience. And I'm going to tell you why. Aquarius is ancient ruler is Saturn, and its modern ruler is Uranus. Uranus rules the non-binary experience, the asexual experience, agender experience, anybody that's gender expansive or expressive. And Saturn rules the binary trans experience. So man and woman, yes and no, like there has to be a duality. And because Aquarius rules both of these things, we can all coexist together. So we should not be fighting over what transness is supposed to look like. And that's crazy because, like even in the stars and in astrology and all of these things or whatever, we're all still connected. And so, I have no problem with admitting my biases and working through them. And so, it really helped because on that set, I found myself defending you more than anything.
You did.
And I was like, what?
I was really happy about that.
And I felt so bad for you because like you said, you kept being interrupted and she kept coming to you, but I was so admired by your power. Let me tell you that promo video that they put out or whatever, because I feel like you two may not have like literally liked it the way I did. Because let me tell you something, when non-binary people look at that and they see you going up against Blair, that inspired them. And I want you to know that, like, It's like you about to cry or something.
It's just so like
I love
Yeah.
this healing
I
moment.
really
I have
need
to
you-
say,
I really
I
need
love
you to
this for the both of you right now, because this
that-
was so intense, and this was my
Yep.
intention, was to bring this for us,
Yeah.
because that was a lot on set. I'm still honestly
Yeah.
digesting it. So this
And I
is so
wanted
beautiful.
Yeah,
So.
and I wanted you because I thought that was powerful in that video because they actually showed you a little bit more in that promo or whatever. You going back and forth with her, and it's like, everything that you said here today, I was actually surprised to hear because it, like, on set, you were actually great.
You think so? I feel
you
like I
were
was
just
a
like-
mess. I feel like I was like so
because you
nervous and
because you
like
called her out. Let me tell you something.
angry and
But you
Alex, I
called-
felt the exact same
but
way.
you
But then when I
called-
watched the cut, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
actually was.
But you called
'Cause it was
her out
intense.
on her shit because you was like, do you feel better? Now that you said it, you feel better? And see, the thing is, it's like when non-binary people looked at that, it was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you were the perfect representation for that.
Yeah.
And so I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to make sure I give you that. And, as we move forward from this situation or whatnot, like we are all getting a new following, more people are coming to our platforms and seeing the great work that we're doing. I'm a tarot reader, I'm an astrologer, I'm a life coach. I do activism, I do consulting work. I'm also a creative and I'm about to get into writing. And so, buy my tarot readings. Tell All Blossom is my astrology tarot page. Coach Blossom C. Brown is my TikTok. And then Blossom C. Brown is my activist Instagram page. I do spiritual wisdom content as well. And, really stand up and support me. I cried when I looked at the amount of people that watched that video of us. And I'm going to tell you why. Because our community gets really surprised of the people who showed up for us, like non-trans people, non-binary people. This is like where I'm going with that. Although whether they're conservative or liberal, like people in my life who work with the trans community who are not trans saying, I can't wait. They're so excited about this debate. Like they're tagging me in it. And I'm just trying to hurry up and retag them in my Instagram story. Like, oh my God, we're excited or whatever. Like we brought so much joy to them because some of them were doctors that want to figure out. And I'm so glad we, cause I feel like I did the strongest in the research part or whatever, like talking about that or whatever. Cause we brought in an audience. This is what I told Jubilee. You're bringing in an audience that usually doesn't come over here to watch y'all or whatnot. And so I think, because for them, we were the first ever episode to offer an extended cut. Us trans people, they've never done that in their history because it was so on demand. And I told them, I said, what y'all have created here is so groundbreaking. You don't understand. This episode is very groundbreaking because it's an all trans and non-binary cast. And I understand they had the trans and the detransitioners on there, but I have more questions for detransitioners because it's like, well, do y'all still consider yourself a part of the trans community? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of nuance there. And I think what holds me back, and me and you've talked about this, is because conservatives like Buck Angel have used that as right-wing propaganda, I'm very slow to move quickly with detransitioners until I learn more about their experiences or whatever. Because in that particular video, there was a trans woman, or detransitioner, I should say, that was forced into having to, you remember who I was talking? Yeah, they were forced into transitioning. And so that's why on one of the prompts, I was like, let me take that back. And I had to acknowledge that not everybody has choice over their bodily autonomy or whatever, because I felt like that was getting ready to be a slippery slope where I was going to end up offending sexual assault survivors, trigger warning, sexual assault survivors, and everyone else that have ever gone through that. And so, debating can get very tricky, but yeah. And so, I'm just really thankful for this opportunity because it, you know what I mean? Like I knew you were going to show up. I knew you were going to debate well because anybody that I put on game, they're going to represent me well, but not just represent me well, but they're going to show up for themselves. And I'm really proud of you because I got you on and you was like, Blossom,
thank you for that.
You were like, you were like, Blossom, I'm going to represent you so well. I'm like, you're fine. But I was also just like, I'm so proud of you because this is your own individual thing or whatever. Like, and I told you, I don't think you're an intense debater. I think you're a very soulful debater. And everybody when you hit the soul, that's when you really hit it. Like you got
That's
it.
the reason why my logo is a heart.
Yeah, like
honestly,
you.
because that's where I speak from.
I'm a
my
little more
activism,
intense,
you
but
know?
you're very soulful and
Yeah.
soulful for a white trans man. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing. And so like I'm so proud of you for your growth. And, I feel like you're in this place where you're positioned more karmically because the people, and I was thinking about this the other day and I started crying about you. And I was just like, sometimes I don't think he sees his greatness, but he's gonna see it. It's like Blossom, he's gonna see it. You know what I'm saying? He's a little stubborn, but he's the type of person he's like, because he does this every time with me. He's like, Blossom, I thought about what you said and you were right. And I was like, he's gonna come around, he's gonna get it together or whatever. But and I love your wife. Like she's just amazing. Like we vibe so well. She's my Golden Girls pal. And I freaking love her. And I'm just so grateful that y'all are placed in my life because when I was going through such a darker place because of injustice, like y'all were really the ones, along with some of the other amazing people in my life that really have shown up and supported me when I have nothing. And so, I'm just grateful for this entire experience. I'm ready to learn and grow and really just expand out.
Yeah.
Well, now I know you, and you got me too.
Yes.
Like, that's serious.
Ashay, same
Like,
here.
seriously, like
Same
anything, I
here.
got you. Like,
And
you
don't
need
forget,
something,
you got your
you
big
got
brother
me,
over
I
here
got
too,
you.
okay?
Child, I know you ain't going nowhere.
And I really want to say thank you for the two of you for being yourself authentically in that space, as tough as it was. Because I got to tell you that, again, is probably not quite one of the most intense debates I've had. Because
Really?
I've definitely debated the sheriff of
Oh,
Los
yeah,
Angeles
yeah.
Ooh.
and got him out of office
That
a
was
little
bigger,
bit.
yeah.
So for the folks out there that think that this is new for me, I just haven't been a social media kind of person. Blossom has been telling me that I need to capture more what I've been doing because throughout the years, even I had my own idea
Yeah.
of what grassroots was.
I told
and
him get the
strayed
content
away
out the
from
Patreon.
No, I know, but
I told him, I said, that's where you'll really love that content.
because I stayed away from social media because I had a toxic idea of authenticity of, you got to do the work, you got to do the work. And, to the point that I made with Blair, it's like, to a degree, does she inspire people? I'll give her that. I'll give her that. I'll give her, does she inspire millions? Yeah. But to physically say that you help people when you're speaking on a system that you don't know how it works, why it works, how it was set up, yet you have the influence to impact it, I think is extremely dangerous, especially when I was in the room and I was willing to have that conversation and really try to find a middle ground. And, hopefully she finds some healing. I'm sure that this podcast is probably going to get her blood boiling and make some sort of secondary thing, which, hey, fans, how you doing? It's still me. And
Screen record,
I'm wearing
please.
pink and cute, and it doesn't bother me, boo-boo, because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm here to do the work. And I also want to let you know the test strips that we've been working on with my incident that was a
Talk
program
about it.
in West Hollywood was successful. Actually, I'm going to say it here on this podcast, Alex. I don't know if you know, but it's on my social already.
Mhm.
I was a recent victim of SA at a West Hollywood bar. Wasn't a great experience. It was really traumatic with a lot of the things that I went through. But through that process, I was able to create some resources because I'm all about resources and creating those things. And the drug test strips was a successful program. And now they're heading to Texas.
That's amazing.
So
Wait, doesn't someone live in Texas?
I think so. I guess those California politics, you just can't get away from.
Yeah, it sounds like karma.
I think it might be just something in the stars, as you always tell me with the horoscope,
This is very true.
But I want to thank the two of you for this healing space because, again, at the end of the day, for our folks, this is us coming together and knowing that, non-binary people, they're part of the community.
Thank you.
Black trans women, part of the community. Hopefully you guys let me in the community too.
Yeah.
I know I look like the devil sometimes.
No.
I know, I get
No,
it. I
you're in
look
the
like an 80s
community.
villain.
Oh,
Because
my God.
but can I say this
you
right
know.
before you mic drop us out? Shout out to all the white trans women and the white cis women that showed up for me during the time of going through this thing with Blair because my dear friend Lynn got on her Instagram stories and started dragging Buck Angel for filth without me having to tell her to. Thank you, white women, for showing me that video Thank you for having my back. Thank you for protecting me, because that's what it's supposed to be like. Like when it's coming from somebody that you may share a similar experience with, that's attacking a person of color or especially a Black person or whatnot. That's when you're using your privilege. And I don't have this problem with you or whatnot. Because you, me and you, we have these really deep, nuanced conversations. So
Yeah.
if you are definitely the one white person I know that's gonna get it. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes, like, I be not wanting to listen to Shane and be like, "Well, I told you." He'll be like, "Well, I told you." You know what I mean? You're supposed to have done this, and he's so right. It's really like a brother sister kind of thing or whatever. So yeah, okay. Now you can mic drop out of here.
Wait, I got one with that.
Oh, okay.
I want to actually, in contrast, I actually also want to thank Black women, period. Because no, honestly, like the most support I have ever gotten from anybody ever is Black women. Most of my followers are Black women. Most of the people I follow are Black, especially Black trans women, because the love that I receive when they themselves don't even have enough for themselves, because it's so difficult to be a Black trans woman, to be a Black woman in general.
Yes.
To share that with me, damn. Like, thank you so much. Like, legitimately, like, I can't even tell you, like, if it wasn't for the Black community, like, I'm not a Black person, obviously. But damn, that community has been the most accepting, kind to me. And specifically Black women. And I love y'all so much. You have no fucking idea. I will die for y'all. Like, seriously, like, I will this is why all this stuff is intersectional, right? Like, the struggle is struggle. It doesn't matter whether you drown in a puddle of water or an ocean. The struggle is a struggle. And they're different struggles, 1,000,000%. But I will always be here. And I will, and like, I'm here, and I really am so grateful for Black women, period. And I'm grateful for you you're thanking us for creating the safe space, but thank you for putting this together and creating a safe space for us to, like,
I got
heal.
privilege too, girl. I got cameras.
Okay.
I got mics.
Yeah.
I got a seat. I got more than
know?
your
Most
studio's
definitely
got,
not
girl.
low
So
budget.
do me a favor. You might have to hit that IKEA and get your setup, because we're on a different level. Sorry. Hate to do that to you, but you may not understand that there are folks that have privilege too. And the way that you've come into the space, I may be coming into who I am, and I'm really just tired of folks coming in, playing the grift and hurting the community in the way that they are, just to make a quick buck. Because again, I've been hurt by community myself. Even in my incident, I had some folks not really show up for me. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sell my community out and destroy all of the work we did just because of my own personal hurt. I have to learn to navigate that, show up and create resources, turn those L's into, W's. And that's how I do it. So again, I want to thank the both of you so much. I hope this brings healing to our audience. I know that middle ground episode was really intense. I had to pause it personally myself. So please make sure to get yourself a glass of water, get some rest, and just continue these conversations with folks. It's really important to really stay in a platform that has a decorum, that is respectful. I'm not, again, going to fully blame Jubilee, because that was definitely a certain individual's tactic, but I think we can all do better in the space. And I do want to still thank Jubilee for platforming myself and Alex and Blossom to actually have these conversations. So not just the trans community itself can actually see what's going on in this way, but the outer community can actually see that we're a lot broader than people typecast us to be. So, everybody have a wonderful day, and I'm sure we'll see this on the Instagram Reels, y'all. So stay tuned.